Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, my Lord Chief Justice, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, Honorable Judges of the Superior Courts, Under Secretary General of Legal Affairs, UN Representative of the Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General for Peace Building, Chairman of the TRRC, dear colleagues, my learned friends, fellow Gambians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinct honor of addressing you today, and I'm particularly delighted to be back in my hospitable homeland, the Gambia, at a critical juncture in its modern history as we convene to inaugurate a most important initiative that is so critical to the future of this country and the strengthening of the rule of law on which that future can be secured. At the outset, I would like to congratulate and commend His Excellency, President Barrow, for the establishment of the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparation Commission of the Gambia, and the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Tambadou, for his contribution and for his determination for this significant development. I am grateful for the invitation to be part of this inauguration and historical moment. These are important times for the Gambia, where nation rebuilding in many spheres is needed. It is in this context that the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparation Commission is being launched. President Barrow and his able team have thus far demonstrated their commitment to reconciliation, the rule of law, and strengthening of the accountability mechanism, not only in words, but through real action. We recall that it was not long after His Excellency was sworn in as President of the country that the country was recommitted to the International Criminal Court as a state party to the Rome Statute. This was a concrete expression of the commitment of the Gambia to the rule of law and accountability for atrocity crimes. It reflected not only the government's recognition of the vital role that the court plays in the independent and impartial fight against impunity, but it also demonstrated the Gambia's resolve to pursue a path of justice, where the rule of law and respect for human rights steer its course, define its future, and what we value as Gambians. As I often say, protecting citizenry from the scourge of war and conflict through the vector of the law demonstrates political leadership and not weakness. Today's inauguration of the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparation Commission is yet another tangible expression of that leadership, with a clear belief in the recognition that in order for the country to move forward to greater heights, it must reckon with its past. It must engage in a good faith effort to uncover past wrongs. It must identify and hold those responsible accountable, provide the answers and indeed the recognition and justice that victims and affected communities so deeply yearn for and desire. The Commission has an important mandate to investigate human rights violations and abuses committed between July of 1994 to January of 2017 in order to foster social cohesion and encourage national reconciliation amongst Gambians, to address impunity and to recognize the rights and dignity of victims through the provision of appropriate reparations. When 11 commissioners drawn from all the regions of the Gambia, representing the richness of the Gambian diversity and its 5 main ethnic groups, as well as religious, and with highly skilled investigators and prosecutors lending their services to the Commission is equipped to deliver. This is needed for the Gambia to turn a page and to write a more promising chapter since independence in 1965. An objective, professional internal inquiry is required to ensure the truth is established through an authoritative historical record of what transpired during the past 2 decades, wrongs identified and then acknowledged, and wounds healed so as to secure the country's internal harmony and to avoid instability and conflict. In addition to truth-seeking, the reconciliation component of the Commission will be key to restorative justice and ensuring any societal fissures are managed through a well-reflected, structured, objective, and inclusive process where victims can fully participate to tell their stories and where forgiveness, as appropriate, and reconciliation can take root. This is fortunately there are a number of precedents for truth and reconciliation commissions which can provide helpful lessons and experiences for the TRRC in the Gambia, from modalities that work best to maximizing meaningful victim participation, ensuring a gender perspective is incorporated in the process, effective outreach, and so on and so forth. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while acknowledging the complexities and uniqueness of each post-conflict, post-upheaval situation, those well for long-term sustainable peace and social cohesion. In other words, real peace and harmony are seldom achieved in the absence of retributive justice. Arguably, this may be considered to be a case-by-case assessment, and it is up to each country and its people to chart the best course of action in any given situation. Truth and reconciliation commissions are not an exercise in settling political scores or vendetta, but an objective, professional undertaking in the service of the nation. When confronted with atrocity crimes that shock the conscience of humanity, however, there is no justifiable reason to look the other way or to entertain immunities. Those most responsible for such serious criminality, if so identified through credible investigations, must face justice in a properly constituted court of law that abides by and applies the highest standards of judicial administration and due process guarantees. I understand that the Commission indeed envisages investigating in order to establish whether atrocity crimes have been committed and to identify those most responsible for the purposes of holding them accountable. This is an important feature of the significant project on which the Gambia is about to embark upon. My office will be following the developments with the Commission with great interest, and should it ever be seized and its jurisdiction established, it will undertake its independent and impartial mandate under the Rome Statute with conviction and dedication, as it does in all situations where we have jurisdiction, with full respect for the principle of complementarity. In the interim, in accordance with the strategic goal 9 of my office's strategic plan, where we look to work with partners to close the impunity gap, my office stands ready to assist the Gambia in this notable effort in any way deemed helpful and feasible, with full respect for our respective and independent mandates. As you know, the Rome Statute envisioned an independent and mutually reinforcing system of justice with a permanent and independent court of last resort at its nucleus. The ICC is to complement national criminal jurisdictions, which are to act as the first bulwark against impunity. Domestic proceedings are indeed the preferred avenue, not least as national prosecutions have the advantage of bringing justice closer to the affected communities. Accountability begins at home. Against this backdrop, my office has always been respectful and mindful of states' sovereign national proceedings in accordance with the principle of complementarity. While the office has stepped in when justice was not forthcoming, it has sat back where required to give space for genuine national proceedings. Indeed, through its presence and work, the office can serve as a catalyst for national proceedings. To be clear, the court does not directly involve itself in domestic capacity building for the investigation and prosecution of atrocity crimes. But nevertheless, the court engages in activities which enhance the effectiveness of states in investigating and prosecuting serious crimes that fall within the ICC jurisdiction. As mentioned, my office will be following the important work of the Commission and will follow it with interest to see how best we can contribute. Your Excellency, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the Gambia is embarking on a crucial project to look at its recent past with a view to building its future. Allow me to conclude by expressing my most sincere admiration for this important initiative and to wish the Commission success in its critical work. Let us benefit from this launch to recommit ourselves today and henceforth to continue working together with resolve to ensure that our societies thrive in the comfort of social harmony and that the rule of law always reigns as a protector of social cohesion, defining our ethos in the Gambia and beyond. On this path, the Gambia, humanity has come a long way indeed, but we have miles to go still before we sleep. I thank you.
We thank the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Dr. Fatou Bensouda.